think, an elderly population, and they need to be protected against this sort of arrogance and ignorance that comes from a lot of these visitors or batch owners. So that's about me on that subject. I'll leave it at that. And
yeah, Dave, just to make sure that it's quite clear that if anyone who's living in the in Te Mutu, even Hamilton, I think, Tikawiti, Ōtorohanga, you know, they're quite allowed to come out if they want to go fishing. They can come out and fish, but they can't stay overnight. They can come out, fish, and then they've got to go back out.
Yeah. You want to drive around, have a look how many people have come out and stayed the night in their batch.
Yeah.
There's heaps of them.
But the other rule, of course, that applies is if you are a batch owner here, you're still only able to come out here for the day. You can't come out and overnight here. So that needs to be made quite clear.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. But there's heaps of them here staying the night. They've come out, they've got their boats there. It's just like we're in level 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. And just as much for Andrew's attention as anything, if I may, just while we're on the COVID thing, I had someone ring me this morning who was concerned about the practices at the Kāwhia General Store. Apparently, they're not social distancing there. Nobody's wearing masks. Blah blah blah. It sounds like they're sort of working completely contrary to what we would expect. Certainly,
I have to comment there that
I just want to raise that because it probably needs to be taken up with the owners just to make sure they probably don't. I'm not trying to speak on their behalf, but I'm just want to make sure that they may not fully understand what the requirements are of them. So perhaps someone just needs to explain it. That's all.
I've noticed myself. You go there, the young girl behind the counter. She serves 90% of the time. She's always got a mask on. Social distancing is the customers. You can tell them if they don't do it, they don't do it. I don't think they're doing too bad in the shop. They did have, before Labour weekend, a police officer come out and basically go in there and give them the once over and end up being quite happy with what they were doing, checked all their procedures and everything. So again, I was say you get people coming to the garage and they say, no, you have to have a mask before you come in, and they go, I'm not wearing a mask, but you know, so someone might have complained about social distancing, but it's happening everywhere. It's just the arrogance of people again. All right, thank you, Kit. Well, that's the end of my chair's report. I don't know if anyone has to accept that or what do we do there, Natasha?
I'll move it.
Sorry, I've got someone on my door, but got rid of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Kit, thank you, Hannah. We move on to item 60, which is the library report.
Kia ora, Mr. Chairman and board members. So my name's Heather Taylor and I'm the
I'm on a meeting.
So I'd like to just table my report as read and then just talk to it, if that's okay with you, about the Kāwhia parts. So you will see going through there that we are introducing RFID to the libraries, and as part of that we've been doing some pre-work, and that's including doing an inventory of stock. So
sorry, Heather, what is RFID?
Sorry, I'm very bad at that, so thank you for pulling me up. So RFID is radio frequency ID. So it puts a little tag in each book, and it's really around making the operational side of things a lot more streamlined. Certainly as far as finding books out of order or missing on the shelves, the issues and returns a lot more streamlined. But what we did have to do was to go through and just ensure that the stock we have on the computer is actually the stock we have on the shelves. So that's a piece of work we've actually started off at Kāwhia. Probably, I'm going to say we're about 4/5 of the way through, and we would have actually finished it if it hadn't been for the lockdown. And we're actually able to manage that with the fact that in Ōtorohanga Library we were working in bubbles. So I was actually able to go out there on my work from home days and actually achieve a heap of that, and just, you know, work out there for the whole day on a Thursday when the library wasn't open. Yeah, so that's sort of probably coming up, I'm going to say sometime in the new year. Again, the lockdowns are just pushing this project out a little bit because we can't get any of the equipment now until after Auckland returns to level 2 or below. Or is that green light, red light? I'm not quite sure with the lights. But you know, once they're able to get stuff out of their region, because everything's up in a warehouse up there. We ran a winter reading program during the term 2 holidays. Again, because of lockdown, we did actually have to change things up slightly, because initially it was all around the children coming into the libraries, and then we locked down, so we had to do it in a slightly more online way. So kids were actually able to email their work in to us at the libraries, and we ran that both at Ōtorohanga Library and Kāwhia Library. And what we're looking at doing with that particular program is, this was our pilot program, so we ran it with one school. We chose one in Ōtorohanga just because it was close and easier for us. But the plan going forward in future years is to actually take this program out and have it being run at the schools as well as within the library. So Kāwhia schools will be included in that. Sorry, I'm just looking at my list. So since the start of the year, what we've actually been working on is a lot of refresh of the book stock out at Kāwhia Library. So at this stage, we've done the fiction, the large print, and the children and teen collections. So we've just got the non-fiction to go out there. And that's enabled us to get some of the older book stock off the shelves there in a way. And we've refreshed that with newer stuff from Ōtorohanga that wasn't going out there anymore, but is still a lot newer than what had previously been on the shelves at Kāwhia. And so we will be doing the non-fiction later in the year. And then just before we locked down, we actually sent out a brand new Kāwhia loan from Ōtorohanga Library. It barely got on the shelves before we locked down, but never mind. When we reopen, that's going to be there waiting for everyone. And some of the stuff I've got coming up is we're looking at doing, I'm going to take advantage of these Thursdays to go out to Kāwhia and do some training with the team members out there, both Linda and the volunteers. And that's around showing them some of our online resources, as well as some of the stuff that our library system can do that they're most probably not aware of. So really just to be able to increase the services that they can offer to the locals. And then breaking news, as of yesterday, we've just launched a click and courier service to allow people to get library books in a contactless manner during level 3, because we're very aware that at 3.5 weeks in, and this thing looks like it's not really winding down quickly, is that by now people, and especially families, will be hanging out for some fresh books. So what we've done at the moment is we're asking people to go in and place holds on books through the library system, and then we will have a dedicated staff member at Ōtorohanga who will go in and take the books off the shelves, issue them to the customer, bag them up, and then the couriers will come in and collect them and deliver them direct to the person. We are actually only going to offer that from Ōtorohanga Library, and that's around keeping our risk low as far as people going back into buildings, but it will be available to any library member. So, people in Kāwhia can still go in and put holds on those books, and they will be delivered. And then what I'm looking to do early next week is to investigate how we can contact our regular customers who don't have online access, so aren't going to be able to go in and place those holds themselves. And that's obviously going to be a little bit more labour intensive, but we've got staff who can get on the phones and talk to people. Yeah, so that's coming. So that's really the nuts and bolts of it.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Heather. It was great.
Yeah, Heather, can I just congratulate you on the work that you're doing there? There's some really proactive initiatives going on with the library, and I compliment you on those. Just a couple of quick questions. I think did you touch on the school program for Kāwhia? I can't.
Sorry, you just cut out on me.
Were you running a school program here for Kāwhia over the holiday periods? You were.
We did.
Yep.
And actually, one of the things we are going to do is another program in summer and during the summer holidays, and that will also be available to all Kāwhia children as well.
And
we're
just
just
question: has there been a noticeable increase at all in the library usage with COVID? Are people reading more?
Well, obviously not real books, because up until yesterday they couldn't get any during the lockdown, so that has affected our use of that there. The online stuff had risen a little bit, but certainly not like it did in the lockdown in March last year. But that said, that the online, ebooks and e-audiobooks took a huge jump in March last year, and then it actually really hasn't dropped off.
Okay.
It's dropped down a little bit, but not very much. So it's sort of gone back up to those same March 2020 levels.
Right. People getting more used to the technology, you think?
I think so. And I think the initial lockdown certainly made people aware of what was available out there online. And they have just continued to keep using it, which is great.
Yeah. No, you're doing a great job, and the librarians out here too need to be thanked for what they do. Yep, thank you.
Well, they do a great job.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, Dave. Kia ora, Heather. What's the website where you can go and click in courier? Is it Ōtorohanga Library?
Yeah, if you just do a Google search for Ōtorohanga District Library.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit in the corner there where you log in using your library card.
Okay. Kia ora, thank you.
You're welcome.
But you did say that service is not available to us out here at the moment?
No, it is.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry.
It's Ōtorohanga books that we will send out to Kāwhia people.
Gotcha.
And that's just around the risk management of just having one person in the district, one staff member in the district accessing the building or a building.
All right. Okay, everybody, it's us then. Thank you again, Heather. And I'd like to move that we accept this report. And Ken sent me. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
We'll come back over here to item 61, planning. This is your department, Andrew, I believe.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll also take my report as read. I think it's, apart from the normal stats and the one item of interest that's probably, one item that's probably of interest to the board is the cell tower approval for Ōtorohanga. That decision was released, I think, 3 weeks ago. The appeal period is now finished. None of the people that submitted in opposition to the cell tower have lodged an appeal, so I imagine that that's the last compliance hurdle so the project can now proceed. The other part of my report's really just an update on the upcoming changes to the planning legislation. The Resource Management Act's been around for the best part of 30 years, and despite all the grumbles about it, I suppose we have an element of comfort from something that we know. So that's all about to be turned on its head. I suppose really just for your information, the names of the new beasts that are coming. So get used to it. There's going to be a lot of discussion about those things over the next couple of years. So happy to take any questions.
All right. Anybody got anything for Andrew?
Yep. I've got a couple of quick questions, Mr. Chairman, through you, Andrew. It's probably early days, but we're having the liquor ban again this year. When does that come in?
Yes, so the liquor ban starts on the Christmas Eve and runs through till Waitangi Day.
Yep, okay, right. And I noticed that just recently around town, there seems to be the odd little, should we call them buildings going up on different sites around town. I assume that they're all, they've all been through the planning process. But
well, probably not, because there's all these buildings that are now exempt for building consent. So there's no trigger. There's no longer any trigger for whether they need consents or not. People just go and put them up.
But
yeah, the key.
But in terms of rating, are they are they being recognised in our rating system as being separately used and habitable?
Well, there's no trigger, so they never get that completely off the grid in terms of whether they get onto any database. So the trigger for a building addition or extension to get on the rating database, is an improvement in capital value, is through the building consent process.
Yes, that's right.
So
if they're not going through that process, we're not obviously not picking them up. So
no, we're not.
But I mean, there must. I think. Well, I'm only from what I've seen, and Dave and Ken, you may have, and Hingy, you may see some others, but it seems to be to me just a little bit of an ad hoc approach to some of these little buildings going up around on sections. But I do wonder whether, if they're being separately lived in and they're inhabitable, shouldn't we actually be charging them an extra rate?
Well, that's a finance question and a rating question for someone else. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to put my toe into that.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. If they add to the capital value of the section,
yes,
you could argue that there is rating income that the council is missing out on, right?
Graham's just going to explain something, isn't he?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if it's are you talking buildings just going on empty sections, Kit?
There's a bit of that going on as well, Graham.
Yeah, not necessarily empty ones, but I think, I mean, I don't want to sound. We pay two rates, okay? We pay 2 water and 2 refuse because we've got Mum's cottage on our property. Now we're quite happy to do that because but if there are others in town that are having a similar situation set up where they're not paying the rates, then there's no equity. Do you see what I'm trying to say? There's no fairness in that rating system. So
yeah,
I just wondered how we actually check on those.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a handle on what sort of buildings you're talking about. Like if it's a like what you would define a separate dwelling unit, that's connected to our water supply and would I guess have 2 refuse collections, for example, then they would receive 2 charges. But if it's just like a shed, then it's not, and like it would add to the capital value, but it would be obviously minimal. So it's got to generate 2 lots of charges. It's got to be a separate dwelling unit, which would I assume trigger a building consent, Andrew?
Yeah, technically it should, but the problem we have here is that people are taking advantage of this new legislation for exempt buildings and flying pretty close to the wind in what they advertise and sell to people, and they avoid giving them the full picture in terms of what the actual compliance and regulations are around new buildings. And so these people blindly take these buildings on, unaware that they may be non-compliant. So when there's no consent trigger, it becomes very difficult to monitor.
Yeah, like I'm assuming they would need to, if it's another dwelling unit, they'd need to connect to our water supply, which should trigger as well, wouldn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, but if it's not a direct connection to the main, and all they're doing is putting a branch into their own house supply, you never know about it. You
wouldn't pick it up. That's
right.
Okay, I've been bringing this subject up for quite a while now about these places. My understanding is you can build up to 30 square metres without a permit, but it's not to be used for residential purposes. So in other words, it's not another bedroom, which is what most of these things are, and it's not a living area, it's a shed. Now, I've also brought this up. There's places where they put a couple of sheds up, and next thing they put a long drop in, which is my understanding that long drops are illegal here now. But there seems to be no enforcement measures by our council, or no action taken, because maybe it's because this is such there's such a grey area in the law. But and people are advertising them as sleep outs, or you can see when you go past that when the doors open, you can see from the road there's a bed in there or a couple of beds. So to me, I really think personally that the council should be a bit more proactive and start checking up on some of these properties. But I suppose we have to also give you a list of what we think and where they are. But like just as you drive into town, here's an example. As you drive into town, just past Dr. John's on the right-hand side, guy's got that section, he's dug it out, he's put a caravan up there. Okay, he's staying there. What's his toilet facilities? And what's our rights or our thing as a council or a community board to check on what he's using for toilet facilities or they are using, and what surely we should have some regulation governing that. So what would you suggest the approach we take here, Andrew?
Well, it's like I say, it's a very ill-defined area of legislation now, and people are actively promoting to try and, I suppose, options for people that sidestep the regulations. It's hard. I mean, the guy in the caravan, if the caravan's registered, got a warrant of fitness, it's perfectly legal. And
okay, but most caravans, 90% of caravans don't have toilets and showers in them.
Yeah, but that's
the
not
real modern ones
around.
do. But when you get the old school ones like this one,
but it's not grounds for going and entering onto people's property and knocking on doors and demanding. You're still not allowed to go into the caravan. Okay, so I could go to.
Okay, but I'm talking more about the septic situation since we're pushing for a sewage system.
Yeah, and so
what is the regulation regarding long drops here?
Well, they're illegal because they go below the water table, and you're not allowed to discharge human waste into the groundwater table. Okay.
What about if you're up the hill then? So you're not discharging it in the water table right up the hill, is what they'll argue.
But
so my ground's elevated.
Yeah, but there's still groundwater, no matter, generally how high your groundwater is. At certain times of the year, there'll be groundwater on that land. And so there's a limit in the regional plan about how deep you can discharge waste into the ground. But you can't walk up to a caravan and demand entry into the caravan to confirm what the person's sanitary facilities are.
Not even under our Health Act or anything like that. So it's not demand to look in the caravan, what the toilet facilities. Okay, here's an example. We've got a house up the hill. There's a couple of places just up the road here. They've got two little cabins on, so there'll be no consent for those cabins because they're under the 30 squares, and they've got a long drop. So hang on, you shouldn't be sleeping in there, and you shouldn't have a toilet there, which is not a licensed toilet as such.
But having said that, I haven't been told about that place. We haven't received a complaint about it. So, yeah, we haven't got the staff to go around policing rules. We act on complaints, as you well know.
Can I suggest perhaps would it be useful, Andrew, if someone was to come out at some stage and maybe Dave, maybe you could drive them around the town and just and the different streets and just highlight the ones that you think need looking at. Would that be useful or not?
Yeah, I could do that. And any ones that any of our other members here think are a bit suspect, just to so we get a decent day for whoever's going to come out, or just and see what we are capable of interpreting, I should say. I know what everyone else thinks about that.
Well, I think it's important that we maintain a standard, and that the same rules apply to everybody. Otherwise, it's only going to create problems going downstream. So.
Yeah, it's just I've said it before. Like I put another bedroom. Any one of us put another bedroom on our house, we have to update our septic system. But okay, maybe I won't do that. I'll just put a long drop in there, just like all these other people are doing, and I'm all good. It's a bit too loose for the rules for my liking there, really.
Yeah.
But okay, that's seems to be all we can discuss on that matter. And I know what you think about Kit's idea there, Andrew.
All I can say is we have limited resource, and if we're driving around the streets making cases against people, that's resource that has to get taken away from people that have paid to get their building consents processed and their inspections carried out. So it's just a matter of...
It makes a bit of a mockery of the building consent process, though, that some don't do it and ones are,
All I'm saying is we've got limited resource and we have to put it where we get the best outcomes from it. But yes, if that's a priority for the board, we'll have a look at it.
All right, we'll have to have a discussion amongst ourselves about that and see what we're thinking. All right, thank you very much. So, is that all in your report, Andrew?
That's all that's there. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that. So, okay, anyone want to move that we accept the planning report as?
Yep, I'll move that.
And I'll second it then. Thank you. All right, now, are you also doing our civil defence report, Andrew?
I am, yes, that's another one for me, yeah.
Item 62, please. Thank you.
So this report's a bit dated now because it was for the second quarter of the year. And I've actually, the next council meeting, I'll have the report for up till September. It's just, I suppose, the cycle means that you get these things a bit late. Not really a lot in here. Probably the only thing of real interest for us is the training stats there. Dave and his team have been putting a lot of work into getting everybody trained, so I think that's been pretty good. Most of the new staff that arrive go through the intermediate foundation course, and the others people pick up on training as it's required in the more specialised areas. So really haven't got much more to report on that, but happy to take any questions on civil defence generally.
Okay, so our civil defence basically is our fire chief is our point of contact here.
He's the man in your community plan. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. No, that's all good. Anybody like to add
Right,
anything?
just through you, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting when Dave Symes came and presented a report, I actually requested if it was possible at some stage for perhaps a meeting to be held in Kāwhia where locals could be advised or brought up to date with what a community response plan is, what's in it, because I don't believe that a lot of people in town have even heard of a community response plan, let alone what it's made up of.
Yeah.
And suggested that perhaps that could be made public. But Dave was a little bit reticent about doing that because he thought there may have been some privacy issues associated with that, because there's people got names and telephone numbers and so on in that report.
Yeah.
But having thought about it afterwards, there's probably no reason why that information just couldn't be redacted.
Yeah.
And you know, so that report could be made available. And I think probably it would be great, I think, if it's been a long time since civil defence actually had a meeting of any sort, I think, in Kāwhia. And it would be useful, I think, at some stage for Dave to come out and perhaps have a meeting on a Saturday or whatever. Perhaps a weekend where there's perhaps the absentee owners are here too, that sort of thing, just to bring people up to speed with what it is, because as I said, I don't think a lot of people understand what a community response plan is and who does what. So just a thought. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, but to be realistic, I don't think we're going to have the environment to do anything like that until February or March of next year at the earliest. So I think it's probably we can put that out in the medium term. I'm sure Dave and Kathy are more than happy to organise something. I think the last time there was anything like that, there was a bit of an emergency services day over at Ōtorohanga, my recollection. So I'm sure that they'll be, all those elements of services, various services will be happy to combine to do something, and perhaps we could roll in a bit of a discussion about the community response plan into that day at the same time.
Yeah, a good idea. I think the last time I seem to remember having something in the hall there where I think even the community constable from Te Awamutu came along to one of those. So that there was one or two different stands, you know, and you could just go along and get your information that you wanted. But some sort of presentation.
He was quite good value, eh, Kit?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I thought it was. So, you know, something like that would be really good. And I accept the fact that it's going to be quite a while before that can happen, unfortunately. Yeah. But thanks, Andrew. Yep.
We may have to address that matter when we come out of to a more public friendly lockdown level.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's you all done there, Andrew? That's our civil defence.
That's the civil defence report. Yep.
Item 62. Okay. Well, I'll move we accept the report.
Second that.
And Ken seconded. Thank you, Ken. Which moves us on to item 63, which is the animal control report, which is you again, Andrew.
Presenting that again. It's a very brief report. It's just got the statistics and that's it. So once again, it's very out of date. It was for the second quarter of the year. We've moved through the registration now, got the bulk of our dogs registered for the current year. So the focus really now is just chasing those ones that are outliers and haven't registered their dogs, and moving to more enforcement type process for those that refuse to get their dogs registered, which is pretty much an annual trend. So happy to take any reports about animal control or dog control matters.
You know, I was talking to Griff out here the other day, and he seems to have a handle on it. He's proactive, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, nothing that I'm aware of. I'm not sure about anybody else's. No? All good? Oh, well, I'll move again. We accept item 63, the animal control report.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Hank. Which brings us to our board members update. So we'll try going around the board. We'll start up there with you, Ken, please. If anything you'd like to discuss, or
there isn't really much. With the current situation, I'm tending to be a little bit isolated, apart from the bubble I'm in and some regular contacts. I would say I had somebody at my door when you talk about the general store. Now I'm at the general store probably on average 3 times a week, and I haven't seen that sort of behaviour there. But perhaps I'm not there at the busy times. I've seen people waiting to go in, and I've seen people, everybody wearing masks, one person in the shop at a time. So maybe, as I say, maybe I'm not there at the times when it's really busy, but I have not at any stage seen that, and I am there fairly often. And generally, my observation when I am in town is that our locals are being pretty compliant with what's required. And I've seen it in the garage as well. People waiting.
I think it might have been an isolated complaint, Ken.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I've certainly never seen any evidence of it either in the general store or the garage. And the other, I know that there's comments about, and I quite agree with them about how much we should be thanking the Marae and Dr. John and so forth. But I think we should also not forget our local businesses who went straight into level 3 conditions when we got that first case here. They didn't wait till the government made the decision. They all, immediately they heard the news, they went into level 3 conditions, which of course is a cost to them. And it's a cost to them and a benefit to the community. And we should remember that as well.
All right. Thank you, Ken. All right. Hanger, please.
Oh, tēnā tātou.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going through how you guys are sitting on my...
Yeah. No, that's all good. Yeah, this is becoming the norm anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is about my 5th Zoom today, so... But anyway, that's the norm of how things are. I think I'm busier working from home than when I am in the office, to tell you the truth. But anyway, so when there was, since the first COVID case, there was the Marae Collective have been meeting daily, and we've just cut their daily Zoom.
Excuse me for 1 minute. I'll just get someone to turn up.
Okay.
Just on a Zoom meeting, but okay. Sorry, but there we go. They're gone.
That's okay. So since the first COVID case, the Marae Collective had been meeting daily, and we've just this week here is the first week we've decided to meet on a Monday and a Friday, which is really good. So we have been meeting every morning, and it's a time for all the 8 Marae people to come together and just to discuss. We have Tegan, who comes on from DHB, giving us the daily data. And also it's a time for us to see what we can do for the community from Kāwhia, but also over in the harbour, which has been really helpful for everybody because everybody is so isolated. So this morning from the hui, Raukura Hauoro Tainui will be coming out for the next 3 days with testing from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And also Waikato Tainui supplied 300 kai packs a couple of weeks ago, which was really helpful. And that was taken down to Makatu Marae and dispersed to how they how they work the process. So I just wanted to give an update there on the daily meetings that we've been meeting. Also, I just wanted to mention with the general store, Lord and I still going for our morning walks, and I do call into the general store, most mornings to pick up our mail and whatever. And they do have a sign as you enter the door on masks are compulsory, otherwise you won't be attended to. So that sign is there as you walk in. And also when I do go in, they do wear masks the times I've been in there, and I've been going in there like daily because I'm walking every morning. So yeah, I was surprised to hear that. So I just wanted to mention that as well. There's just a little bit of feedback from myself. And also I noticed that there's some really good signage on the footpaths as we're walking around in Kāwhia Township, promoting the importance of getting vaccinated. So they're a big sign that's been stuck onto the footpaths, and I don't know who did that, but I think it's a great initiative to get out to our people here in Kāwhia for the importance of vaccinations. At our last get together, I did mention, like we did talk about the poles coming into Kāwhia, those white standards coming in, and it was decided not to replace those. But when I walk out, there's about 4 that are left, and I says, it still looks a bit shabby to me, because there's some missing and there's some still up. So I'm just wondering whether we could remove the ones that are there, so everything looks tidier as people come into Kāwhia. So that's just something I just wanted to put on the table here. And the other one, of course, is, as I mentioned at our last hui, is the macrons over the names at the whareiti at the toilets. But I know due to COVID, it's hard, all of that. But, I'm quite happy to go down and just put a bit of paint on if I've got the okay. It's just putting a macron over A's. But anyway, that's work in progress. But apart from that, it's lovely to see everybody. And I find that every meeting I come to, I learn a lot by listening, and it's interesting to learn from the council what you can do I get it when we can't just go onto people's property and just say ask, because for me, I respect people's privacy. But also I ask myself, why are people putting buildings and caravans onto their property? So to me, it's telling me that that's what they can afford, because of the shortage of housing as well. Like, to me, I'm just happy that family whānau have a shelter over their head instead of sleeping in a car or elsewhere. But that's just a view that I have. that people, to me, that it's important that they've got a shelter for them and their children, and even more so if they're elderly, and that's an important thing for me. And it could be worse for them, because this is what people can afford these days as well. So anyway, I'm just putting that on the table. Nō reira, tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Hinga. Just a little response there, Hinga. Yes, I understand, families need and want these, but we do have rules and regulations that sort of need to be observed. Otherwise, it turns to chaos, and you could end up people. Where do you draw the number on how many sleep outs they put on there?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I totally get that. But the thing, where I'm coming from is that times are hard anyway, but now they're harder with COVID, and our people are finding it hard to live. So yeah, that's just the view that I have, and I get all of that, but sometimes yeah, it's just times are hard, and they're harder now with COVID. So kia ora.
Okay, kia ora. Thank you. Kit.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I just wanted to support Hinga's comments about the work that the food bank people have been doing. Tremendous work around the community, and a lot of that sort of goes under the radar. I don't think a lot of people appreciate the work that goes into what they do. So I think we need to acknowledge that publicly. And I wondered whether it would be a nice gesture from the board to actually send a letter of thanks and appreciation to Dr. Burton and to our emergency services, but also all of the health providers involved that have been supporting our community through these lockdowns. I think it'd be a nice gesture, and I'm sure it would be appreciated if we were to do that. So that's just something perhaps for you to have a think about. It's been a while since we had a community board meeting, I think probably, so all I can tell you in general terms is we've had a number of council meetings, we've had a number of council workshops, we've also had some risk and assurance committee meetings around the preparation of the annual report for this year, which I understand is just about completed, and it's without not having too much detail, I understand it's a good result for the year, so no issues there. And just to talk very briefly about Three Waters. Now, you're all probably aware that I think it was yesterday the Minister Nanaia Mahuta announced that it'll now be mandatory for all local authorities to go into this Three Waters proposal. Whether you like it or not, you're in it, and so that's causing quite a lot of discussion, as you can imagine, amongst territorial authorities, and yeah, it's raised a number of issues. We had a brief Zoom meeting prior to this one with the mayor and councillors, and we've agreed that we're not going to get into playing political games. The decision has been made by central government, and that's their call. But what we're going to do as a council, I think, is to try and put together some bullet points or some key things that come out of the proposals that we can actually get out to the people, so that there's because there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of people just perhaps don't understand what it's all about. So the idea is to try and put something out there that explains what's what. I guess some of the things that came out of this morning's discussion covered things like the lack of consultation with the community, the short time frame involved, and even those councils that have conducted some consultation with their communities, that consultation seems to have been in the large pretty much ignored, which is causing some issues obviously for those councils. I raised the issue, or my concerns, about what's going to happen to small communities. And I said not just Kāwhia, but small communities nationally. Are they going to be overlooked in favour of the bigger boys, the metropolitans? And there's an issue too around potentially around the composition of the governance board of the entity. I understand that 50% of that representation will be from iwi, and the rest will be from local authorities, I think, from memory. That's caused some discussion. And I don't want to get into discussions on that, but I can just let you know that that is an issue for some people. The other one was the fact that we will remain the owner of the assets, but we will not have control over the assets. And I philosophically have a little bit of difficulty getting my head around that. The assets are going to be, if you like, form part of a collective. So we will own part of Hamilton's, and Hamilton will own part of ours. And I guess, and there will be a decision yet to be made, but I suspect that what will happen is that eventually there will be one charge across the whole entity for water. So irrespective of where you live, it's going to cost you, I don't know, say a couple $100 or whatever it might be, and the same with sewage. So you're not going to have individual rates in each in each authority. That's my understanding at this stage.
So you're saying all our costs are going to go up?
So yeah, and of course then it raises the question too that now that it's mandatory and we've got quite a short time frame in which to get things together. The question was raised as to in respect of Kāwhia in particular, and the fact that we've got our wastewater proposal sitting in our long-term plan. The fact that these entities are going to actually take over the debt as well. So the question was raised as to whether or not we should go ahead and put that system in and then let the entity take the debt as well. So that was an issue that was discussed. And the last one was pretty much Nationals now coming out and saying that that if they get into power next election, they're going to pretty much unbundle all of this. But they've given no detail on how they would do that, and I guess that detail is yet to come. But I guess it's easier to it's rhetoric in some ways, and it's easy to talk about these things. But until such time, if you've got the something to back it up, then I guess you can't make a decision on which way you want to go with it. But yeah, so if they were to unbundle it, I mean, it's cost the country millions to get to where we are now. So if they go through and unbundle it all, it's going to cost us millions again. And so yeah, there are those sorts of ongoing issues to think about. And the last one was that as a bit of a sugar-coated deal for those authorities who were still making a decision as to whether or not they wanted to opt into the Three Waters proposal before it obviously became mandatory. Government was actually proposing that some of these authorities they would dish out some money to them, and some of them was quite substantial actually. Even the small council like Ōtorohanga was going to benefit from that. It's not clear now that it's been made mandatory whether that money is still coming to us, and that question needs to be asked. I mean, if that's the sweetener, then that would certainly help things, because I think in our case, and Andrew, you might have some comment on this. I think the figure that was announced for us was probably around about 10 million or something like that for us?
Yeah, 10 and a half, I think, or 10.8 or something like
10
that.
and a half, yeah. So the question really was, okay, it's mandatory now. Are we still going to get our 10.5 mil? Because if that's the case, if we did get that 10.5 mil, you can think of all the different community projects we could actually do with that money. So So, yeah, sorry, I've probably taken up a bit of your time, Mr. Chairman, but anyway, that's a bit of background on what's been happening in recent times. So that's pretty much it from me. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
And that's good. Thank you, Kit. I can see the Three Waters is polarised in the country at the moment. My own personal view of it, we've already paid for it. The government's going to buy it off the councils at a reduced price, and us going from rate to be cheaper. To me, you get a large entities, what are they going to pay the guy and charge $1 million a year? Was the Auckland Water guy on 700 and something, and he cocked that up. So we'll have these guys. So then the next thing, the lowly ones down will be getting paid, what, $500,000 each or something, or a couple $100,000, and then it's just going to be more expense and more expense. I think this is just part of this government socialist agenda to bring it all under their control. I have voiced my opinion before. I'm right against it, and I back all those places that are against it. But anyway, just right now, I'll just say hi, welcome, Jeff.
Hi, my apologies, people.
No, it's all right, Kit, apologies at the start, but we're sort of just at our end part, actually, mate. So we're just doing our board members' updates and different things. So if you'd like to jump in there now, Jeff, since if anything you'd like to discuss.
Just a very quick one. Well, Aotea's Aotea, but the communications tower has gone through due process, and I understand that there was several objections to that, but they've been put to one side, and the communications tower will be going ahead. So we'll have reasonable cell phone coverage in Aotea. And that's about all from us. And sorry, no, that's not. We've got security cameras getting organised. So we're going to put an additional 2 security cameras into the village. One down by the park, the children's playground, to monitor that area, and the gateway to the beach. We're anticipating a bit of activity once the restriction to the beach at Kāwhia happens. And then the other one right down the other end of Lawton Drive, at the gate to the boat ramp, because that'll pick up anyone that's going down there to have a look at the Morrison's place and places down there. That's where they normally go in. So no, so that's us. And thank you, Kit, for your words with Dave Forsyth to get things organised down there. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Okay, anything else you'd like to update us on, Andrew?
No, I've got no other news. Dave?
Okay, thank you. All right, now it's my turn. So just while we talk about what Jeff was saying there, and since we're on Zoom, it should be right to say, but what's happening with Morrison's and the seawall out there? We did come to an agreement with them in the end, did we? Or is that all?
In relation to what, Dave?
Oh, this is more for Andrew, the question. We did have an issue about the seawall down by the car park this couple of years ago. I'm sure the outcome was.
No, that's been long put to bed. So the an easement arrangement was negotiated with David and Nancy, and we placed a easement over the bit of the seawall that encroached into his property, and we got access stripped down onto the beach at the same time. So yeah, good result. So there's now public access to the harbour edge off the end of Morrison Road.
So is that public access, is that vehicle access as well, or just a walking?
No, yeah, it's public vehicle access, yeah.
Public vehicle access, all right. No, thank you. All right, now for me, I've discussed this with Andrew, and I should have brought it up at our last meeting, but our local people that did it last year are wanting another Christmas parade, hopefully if we're out of lockdown, on the 10th of December from 2:30 till 3, pretty much the same as it went last year. It was a great little event actually for Kāwhia, and bought a lot of things, but they've asked if we can support them financially with they're asking for $500. So I don't know what everyone thinks or would like to say or put in a bit of sponsorship for them and from our board.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd certainly be in favour of giving them that support if it's able to go ahead.
So we go here. Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, Kit, is it?
Oh yes, I'd certainly support that, Mr. Chairman. And of course, I think the same lady is organising the collection for the New Year's Eve fireworks too, isn't she? So
No, that's Linda. Linda's doing the fireworks, and Shani's doing
I meant the
Christmas
same
parade.
person as last year.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you wanted to consider them as well, but anyway, certainly the Christmas parade. It's a good idea.
Talking to Linda the other day, the fireworks cost has gone up by over $3,000. Yeah, everything's going up. And thanks. So, okay, can we pass a resolution to give the Christmas parade $500 from?
Yeah.
And where would that? Wait,
What
you'll
do you
move a
want to-
motion?
Yeah, I will.
All right, thank you. And looks like Ken was seconding that. We all agree?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. One page here. Now,
Sorry, just to interrupt there. I take it that's money going to come out of your discretionary grants fund. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's the one.
Okay.
That's one we usually use, Kit. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay, now we did have issues, or not issues, but our 8 local marae, Hinga might be able to help me a bit on this one, but our 8 local marae were really keen on our last level 3, and I was fully supportive of them, to organise some sort of roadblock to stop people coming out here. It's crazy. School holidays, I see people walking around town with their kids I'd never seen before. And like little groups of them, there'd be 2 or 3 parents with 2 different sort of families. And I'm thinking, hang on, we're on level 3. What are you people doing here? Now, what happened is the marae through Waipapa, pardon me, through Hone Edwards, tried to do it all legally and do it all properly, and just failed to get the application in enough time to bring it in for the Friday of the long weekend application with the police. Now, I personally thought the Friday was a bit late because since we're on lockdown, the long weekend for a lot of people had started before that, and people were just staying here still from the school holiday period. But I just want to know what our board members think, or are they supportive, or are you supportive, or do you think of another option for this proposed roadblock? But it'd be in conjunction with the police and everything. It's
through you, Mr. Chair. There was a number of the collective marae that did not agree for the roadblock. So that was,
sorry.
So after when I had the conversation with you, I attended that meeting, and I did voice that it was not a good move, and it was supported by the majority, and it was decided that we would just help to monitor where we can. But as for a roadblock, no. So that discussion, I think it was just it was a discussion. But when we came together, the majority decided that was not a good idea. So I just wanted to bring that. I just wanted to
because I had someone tell me, no, the whole 8 marae, they're into it. They want to stop it.
That's right.
And I said that to you at the time, Yeah.
Yeah. So that's untrue.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that sort of takes my discussion away. All right. That's really about it for me on my little list here. I do think, I wonder what we can do about it. We've got a COVID case reported here because these people breached their Auckland lockdown. Right? Come down to stay with the father. I'm not sure if the father's a batch owner or a local or whatever. I've heard rumours, but I wouldn't like to say. And the other one was that they'd come to stay with him. They were heading back home on the Tuesday or whatever, but he drove them back to Auckland and then drove back here. So, I don't know how he would have got through the roadblocks unless they went the back way. It's quite easy to go through Pukekawa way instead of the motorway. But it is, and I know other locals that have brought their children down from Auckland when the lockdown came and have them working here and this and that, which is sort of defies the whole purpose of the thing. And
but basically what you're saying is that your members of your own community are the biggest defaulters here.
Yeah, some a minority of our community. Yeah. So I don't know what everyone's opinions or thoughts are on the.
Yeah, I understand that the couple were from Pukekohe and
Yep.
that they've returned to Pukekohe where they're now in isolation. And I think the police are passing more than taking more than just a passing interest in this one. Yeah, because the question that you quite rightly raise is how did they get down here, and then how did they get back without being stopped somewhere along that way? So yeah, I think the police are a little bit interested in this one. Yep.
I hope so. No, all good. Okay, before we sign off for the day, anybody got anything they'd like to add, or any other things that we may have missed out there?
Yeah, through you, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I did forget to mention that if anybody like needs food packs, there's an email address that's been set up, and the email address is Kāwhia foodbank@gmail.com.
Thank you. Thank you. Were you going to say something, Kit?
Oh,
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Just one last thing, if I may. In addition to those letters did we agree that we're going to send those letters out to Dr. John and the
No, we didn't actually. We didn't actually discuss it, but I think we've
Yep.
got plenty of time to do something.
Yep.
This ain't going away in a hurry.
Yep. Okay. Colin Tutty, who was with council, who has been with council for over 40 years, has retired. I think they had his function, was it this morning or yesterday, Andrew?
They had a bit of a Zoom meeting this morning, yes.
Yep.
But there's been no final morning tea or lunch or anything. We're planning to hold something when we get back to some kind of normal. So yeah.
Yeah, well, Colin's been a long-serving member of council for, as I said, for over 40 years, and did a lot of good work for Kāwhia during that time.
Yep.
Attended a lot of our board meetings. It was always good value, and I just wondered whether a letter of thanks would be appropriate to Colin from the board. That was all. Yep.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Colin has done heaps for us, as you say. Always very approachable, easy to deal with. Yes,
Mr. Chair, just before we close, I'm just looking at the latest media release from the Waikato District Health Board, and in response to the Kāwhia cases, they've said that there's a pop-up testing centre at the Makatu Marae, and it's going to be running for the next 3 days from 11 till 3 p.m. each day.
Yeah, it's on our connection page and
as well. Okay, that's good. Excellent. Okay.
All right. Oh, well, thank you again, guys. Can't wait till we have a proper meeting where we're actually sitting in the same room together. This is all right, but it doesn't really quite the same for me. It's 11 minutes past 2. I'll call our meeting to a close. And again, thank you, everybody. And keep safe.
Good day.
Kia ora. Thank you, David.